And if you haven't heard, there are a lot of people that's talking about there was like a countdown. And it's one of the, I think it was the stimulus package, like from 180 days, and it was pertaining to aliens. So I don't know what's that about. Are they trying to say aliens are coming? I don't know. But anyway, that was something that was in the news. Um, let's see what else we got to talk about. Oh, before those protesters went into the Capitol, they were at a Trump rally, but there's rumors that it was an inside job now, and they are actually indicating that some Congress were involved. I don't know how true that is, but that's like a lot of the rumors and what some people are saying in the news. So that's a little crazy too, right? But 2021, man, is something else. And a lot of people thought it was going to be more peaceful because, 2020 was a little crazy, but 2021 is starting off about the same, right? But it is what it is. And a lot of people are saying that if we were black people, we would have been shot. We would have rioted. Um, Probably some truth to that. But a lot of people are recognizing that there are two justice systems. And it's crazy that this is America in 2021. But some of the things that America has enabled for so long, right? It's just a continuation, basically. And a lot of people have been talking about entitlement, why is entitlement so bad? But you basically got a particular group that's been getting everything that they want, right, for so long, right? You kind of can expect to see, like, what you're going to see when you look at a particular company, or just any company a lot of times, right? Um, yeah, man, it's just 2021. Let's see. A lot of people are talking about America's no longer based on a meritocracy, but was it ever actually based on a meritocracy? But anyway, that's just something to think about. And I keep telling people, right, if you really want to know how things are, right, you can just look, right, at some of these companies that are on the stock exchange, and just look at their management and their leadership at just about every uh, company, basically, right? You could just look at their leadership, put in a company that's on the Nasdaq, and then put in the management. Just Google it, and you'll see what I'm pertaining to, right? Um, let's see. And my friend, he likes to call it "find the chocolate," but I'm gonna move on about that. He was talking about looking at different companies on the stock exchange. But anyway, uh, where are we? In other news, Trump has told his aides not to pay Giuliani his legal fees. Now, this is something that has happened. I'm guessing President Trump is mad at Giuliani. So, yeah, that's interesting, right? Because they was like best friends. But uh, Biden, I think he already unveiled it, the COVID-19 relief plan. I have to go look that up, but and this one is the plan was like 2,000 stimulus payment, but I think they dropped it down to 1,400. At least that's what one article said. I don't know. And let me see. It is expected to include an extension of unemployment assistance, aid to local and state governments, and a boost for small businesses, funding for vaccine distribution and schools, and a third round of stimulus checks. Okay, that's cool. Um, Let me see something. Right? Can I find? There was something I wanted to talk about with Biden, President Biden, and let me see, what was it? Uh, oh, I know what it is. I think it's first 100 days. Uh, Biden lays out plan for next 100 days during the first day in office. All right, let's see. What are they saying about his agenda? All right, so I found this article on Times.com. Inside Joe Biden's agenda for his first 100 days by Elena Abrason and Brian Bennett. All right, so when it says when Franklin Delano Roosevelt was sworn in as president on March 4th, 1933, a quarter of Americans were unemployed and multitudes were living in shanty towns. By the end of his first 100 days in office, he had pushed 15 bills through Congress, revamped the financial and agriculture systems, expanded unemployment relief, and laid the foundation for economic recovery. Now, during Franklin uh, D. Roosevelt's term, well, his multiple terms, he did some progressive things. The issues were with President Franklin Roosevelt was none of it actually uh, made its way to black people. Like black people were kind of just watching other people get, all these goodies and tangibles, while we didn't actually get any tangibles. Right? The GI Bill, there were issues where we wasn't receiving the GI Bill. What else? There was all sorts of stuff that was happening. Redlining. So there was just a bunch of stuff that was happening, right? And I'm not necessarily saying that it was him, but a lot of the people that were over the programs and getting the tangibles out to other people, um, they didn't like black people, and that's one of the issues that happens all the time, right, in America, when all these social programs are created a lot of times, and you'll have where a person is in charge of that social program, and they don't like black people. And so the black person or black people as a collective don't receive what they're supposed to get. And so those were some of the issues with Franklin D. Roosevelt um, during his presidency. But I would say he was progressive though, but just didn't make its way to black people. That was also something that we was a lot of people was talking about in the black community with Bernie Sanders, right? Even though we knew he was progressive, right? But like, would it actually make its way to black people, right? So you have to be very vigilant of, is that the right term? Yeah, vigilant of who you put in charge of certain programs, basically. It says 9 decades later, another Democrat, Joseph Biden Jr., ascends the White House at a time of extraordinary crisis. A once-in-a-century pandemic has killed more than 400,000 Americans. Is it really that much? Wow. And they raised nearly 10 million jobs. The new president to contend with climate change, a national reckoning on racial justice, and a bitterly divided electorate. As he plots his first months in office, President Biden has been studying Roosevelt's model. Okay. We are coming to this with a determination to meet these with solutions as big as the problems are. White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain tells Time, our goal is to rally behind that. Mobilize the behind that, start to make changes we need to make to tackle these horrible problems. Okay. Sounds okay. That mission was reflected in Biden's opening flurry of executive actions. Within hours of his inauguration, Biden rejoined the Paris Agreement and the World Health Organization and rescinded the Trump's administration's so-called Muslim ban, which restricted immigration from a host of Muslim-majority countries. The moves were intended to telegraph that his presidency would eschew the isolationist tendencies of his predecessor. So Biden's opening back up the borders. Okay. I wonder, is that a safe thing to do, right? You know, we still got the pandemic going on. Is it safe to have other people coming in from all these different countries? Are they not infected? But moving on, Biden's first 3 months in office will be about far more than just signaling to a ship in town. Interviews and briefings with more than a dozen aides and outside advisors to the administration make clear that the new president will focus on two primary objectives: curbing the spread of COVID-19 and delivering economic assistance to families in need. By April 30th, Biden's 100th day in office, the administration hopes to have vaccinated 100 million Americans, authorize the Defense Production Act to increase the vaccine supply, and safely reopen the majority of elementary and middle schools. Okay, okay. Sounds like a good thing. Yeah. I wonder, has Biden brought up anything for black people? I gotta wonder it, you know. Biden aides and policy wonks, most working remotely, gathering over Google's Meet, have been scrambling to line up a battery of policies, regulatory changes, and legislative language to roll out within the first week. Programs that Biden can run out of the whistling, like overseeing orderly vaccine distribution and encouraging Americans to get vaccinated, will require a level of discipline and organization that the White House has not seen in 4 years. Okay. There are also challenges outside control. The Biden administration will be dependent on fractures Congress to authorize funding for both its vaccine distribution and economic stimulus plans. Biden has urged lawmakers to pass a version of the $1.9 trillion relief package he proposed on January the 14th. But it is not yet clear how much Republican support he can muster. And even with narrow Democratic control of both chambers, the pace of the negotiations may be slowed by the Senate's impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump. I wonder, are the Republicans actually going to go through with it? Are they actually going to convict Donald Trump? Their brand is already like destroyed, though. Like, it's like crushed. It'll be interesting to see if somebody. Well, I know the 74 million because they're like true believers, right? So I think they'll probably still vote, at least for Trump. I don't know if they will vote for any of the other Republicans like Romney or Mitch McConnell, but it's gonna be interesting to see what's gonna happen. And I've been actually hearing that they're talking about creating a new party, the Patriot Party. I don't know. I have to do some research on that. This is something I overheard some people talking about. Um, Let's see. The administration hopes to leverage broad support for economic stimulus to push progressive agenda, including raising the national minimum wage to $15 and more funding for community health clinics. Policies, it says, will usher in long-term recovery. It is the domestic equivalent of the domino theory, says former White House Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel. Rahm Emanuel, he's the chief of staff, huh? Okay. Who served in the role when President Barack Obama took office amid the Great Recession in January 2009. If you get COVID under control, you're going to get an economy that flips a switch. The goal Klein says is to manage the multiple crises facing the U.S. in such a way that the nation emerges from a troubled period stronger and more unified. Here's the cheat sheet on what to expect from the Biden administration over its first 100 days. Um, interesting, interesting. Uh, interesting. All right, so we want to raise the minimum wage to $15. I'm cool with that because I'm more of a progressive myself, you know. I know a lot of people that totally against that, right? They say it's gonna cause them, to shed jobs, right? So a lot of companies are gonna get rid of their jobs. Basically, what a lot of people that are more conservative are trying to convey. Uh, I guess we're gonna find out if Biden actually passes it. Um, but most progressives have been for the $15 an hour minimum wage. So we're gonna find out, man. It's gonna be interesting. The future is looking very interesting. 2021 is just crazy. Um, so Biden is trying to say he's going to be progressive, and they say the minimum wage hasn't like rose in forever. It hasn't kept up with inflation. So yeah, curbing the pandemic. The COVID-19 vaccine is rolling out more slowly than expected. Infectious rates are worsening, and some experts predict that as many as 700,000 Americans could die from the disease before it's contained. Biden intends to change that by speeding vaccine distribution and reducing new infections in the meantime. You can't do it with half measures, says Klein. You need to throw everything you have at it. The vaccine rollout plan hinges on $20 billion federal program that would provide direct assistance to local officials. Whereas the Trump administration saw its role as getting vaccines to the states when allowing them to figure out how to dispense doses. Biden's team will be involved in distributing vaccine supplies to priority populations. We want to see the federal government coordinating more doses between states and even within states between nursing homes and the general public so that we're not allowing inventory to sit unused in areas where there's lower demand, says Dr. Howard Foreman, a professor of public health and management at Yale University, who has advised Biden's campaign. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. To run this federal program, the new administration has tapped a team of public health experts, including a former commissioner of Chicago's health department. All right, so that's enough on that. Let's see, is there anything else? I need to take off and get vaccinated or recover from any side effects. Uh, the proposed relief bill will fund sick days for low-income workers who may need to take time off to get vaccinated or to recover from any side effects. Okay. Uh, there's been a lot of talk about the vaccines also. Um, a lot of people are not advocating, well, at least in the woke community, I'll say. There's a lot of people that are totally against the vaccines. Um, but then I've also heard some people say it's safe. Eh, I guess it just depends, right? Um, we gonna see what's gonna happen with that. In the months before vaccinations become ubiquitous, President Biden will launch a campaign to depoliticize depoliticize mass wearing. He plans to call on business and religious leaders, including pastors, rabbis, and imams, to normalize face coverings. Biden will also appeal directly to Americans to take a 100-day mask challenge in which they agree to cover their noses and mouths in public for at least the first 3 months of his presidency. All right, let's get to the economy. Okay. Most economists believe that as soon as the threat COVID-19 abates through mass vaccinations and herd immunity, the economy will begin to rebound on its own. But the timeline is tough. Even if Biden plans to speed up vaccine distribution are successful, the country is not expected to achieve this milestone until summer or fall. The economic stimulus proposal Biden's release January the 14th is largely focused on easing the pain until then. All right. So the proposal would extend weekly enhanced unemployment insurance through September, increasing the allotted amount from 300 to 400 and send 1,400 in direct payments to most Americans. The plan would also funnel 130 billion to schools to help them reopen safely, as well as 15 billion in grants to small businesses to help supplement lost revenue. Biden says he will propose a second round of legislation in February focusing on job creation. Okay. I hope black people are included in a lot of these new policies and executive orders that are being passed. Um, to pass such legislation in an evenly divided Senate, Biden will need not only to unify Democrat support, but also the votes of at least 10 Republicans. We need 10 Republicans? Hmm. Several of whom have already expressed sticker shock. Democrats could dodge the 60 vote requirement by employing an arcane budget procedure known as reconciliation, but doing so would likely restrict the scope of the package and could undermine Biden's message of bipartisan cooperation. I wonder are the Republicans actually going to try to cooperate with the Democrats? That's going to be interesting. And Mitch McConnell keeps getting elected. They must love Mitch in Kentucky. Mitch don't never lose. But anyway, uh, I found a section called Climate and Racism. Let's see what this is talking about. The dual crisis of racial justice and climate change also loom large in the president's mind, advisors say. On January the 20th, he became the first president in history to explicitly condemn white supremacy in an inauguration speech. The administration's proposed stimulus plan also addresses several items raised by the Black Lives Matter movement. That includes assistance for communities of color hit disproportionately hard by the pandemic, funding to expand community health centers, and prioritizing relief for minority-owned small businesses. Hmm. Okay. Let's see what he does. I don't know. Biden in the past, he's been more of a moderate, and he's coming off now as a progressive. So I don't know. This will be a little bit of a change. Um, Biden has tasked Susan Rice, the head of the Domestic Policy Council, with overseeing the administration's racial equity initiative. Uh, so Susan Rice, I'm not gonna get into that about her. We'll see. With overseeing the administration's racial equity initiatives, which will access how the government can maximize resources for minority communities and ensure diversity within its own ranks. Can maximize. Let me read that again. Uh-oh. Caught an ad. Hold up. Uh, let me see. Which will access how the government can maximize resources for minority communities. So minority, that term can include everybody. It usually includes everybody except for white. Actually, it sometimes actually includes white women also. It usually includes Asians, white women, Indians, East Indians. So that minority includes a lot of people. It's not specifically black people. But let me keep reading. Resources for minority communities and ensure diversity within its own ranks. Okay. And Biden is launching initiatives to expand access to health care for women of color and reform the criminal justice system. So Biden is tampering with the criminal justice system again. Yeah. I'm not gonna get into that. Another ref of early moves will reposition the U.S. response to a warming planet. In addition to rejoining the Paris Agreement, Biden rescinded the Keystone Pipeline permit and ordered federal agencies to reinstate environmental regulations his predecessor had rolled back, like rules on methane emissions and oil and gas production. And Biden has previously said he would use the federal government's purchasing power to drive demand for green products, a move experts expect him to do early on by mandating uh, federal agencies to buy low-emission vehicles and other eco-friendly goods. Um, Eco-friendly vehicles, so I'm guessing that's something like a Tesla. So having money in eco-friendly vehicles would be a good thing to put some stocks in, you know. Just a little advice. The administration has plans to reverse a slew of Trump's era policies on immigration. Already, Biden has put forward a bill that would create a path to citizenship for millions of undocumented immigrants and both development aid to Central American countries. So basically, he's planning to let or open up the borders and let more immigrants in. Um, yeah, let's see. Uh, he plans to create a task force to try to reunite more than 600 children separated from parents after crossing the U.S.-Mexican border under Trump's zero tolerance policy. Biden is also expected to reverse Trump's policy that tried to exclude documented immigrants from the census. Okay, well, that's pretty much all of that. Wasn't enough in there for black people. And they didn't use the term minority and diversity a lot. It didn't say Pacific black people. So you gotta kind of take that with a grain of salt. It depends what he actually does. Um, but the black community is hurting, and I think black people just need to be more self-reliant and support black businesses. Uh, this was one of the issues with supporting the civil rights movement the integration part of it, right? When they wanted to integrate. And basically, these were a lot of people that I guess you could say they had self-esteem issues, right? They wanted to work with white people, work for white people. A lot of them, um, like there were a lot of black people that wanted to sit on a certain part of the bus instead of own their own bus. It's like the mentality is just different, right? There were those who wanted to own, and there was those that wanted to uh, sit on the bus, right? So yeah, man, interesting, interesting, interesting. Uh, what else is in the news? How long I've been on here, actually, by the way? Da, 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 35 minutes, huh? Let me see what else I got. What else? Biden warns COVID deaths will top 500,000 next month. That reminds me, why didn't we do the tracking like when they first found out that somebody had, the condition? Why didn't nobody do the tracking of them? Track where they've been and stuff. That was something we did with President Obama, right? But anyway, looks like Intel has been hacked. Uh, let me see about this. Looks like all these companies are getting hacked. There was I could think of Tesla, Home Depot. I remember Home Depot. When they got hacked, right? Home Depot, where was it? They used the way that they hacked Home Depot was they used the vendor's login credentials. They hacked his login credentials, and then they used a 0 day. Well, they got into Home Depot's vendor environment. Then they used a 0 day attack. And this was a 0 day attack on the Windows system that they had. And that gave them the chance to pivot to Home Depot's corporate environment. And that's when they was able to get to their point of sale systems. And they took it was 56 million credit card and debit card data. So they got all these customers' information. And it was also 53 million emails that was also taken, by the way. And so that's what happened with the Home Depot situation. And they said Target was similar also. So a lot of these companies are just getting hacked, man. Everybody got to get their cybersecurity game up, man. It is not a game out here when it comes to cybersecurity. Um, all right, so I'm reading a post right now. Let me see, how old is this, by the way? Yeah, this is new. This just happened. Intel Corp's financial sensitive information was stolen by a hacker from its corporate website that prompted the company to release its earnings statement ahead of schedule. The Financial Times reported on Thursday, quoting the chief financial officer. It looked like they just stole Intel's financial information. But let me see what else they got. CFO George Davis did not provide more details, but said that the leak was the result of an illicit action that had not involved any unintentional disclosure by the company itself, according to the report. Uh, uh, well, they didn't give me a lot on this one. Let me see. Intel said was the victim of a hacker who stole financial sensitive information from a corporate website on Thursday, prompting the company to release its earnings more quickly. Looks like so. The Financial Times just cut off on me out of nowhere. Let me see. Can I get it back? The U.S. It keeps cutting off on me. They don't want me to read it. Let me see if I can find something else on the Intel hack. Since Financial Times want to act up on me. Uh, okay, we got rioters. Rioters, that's how you say it. Um, yeah, here we go. Alright, so Intel Corp said, yeah, they've been hacked. Once we became aware of these reports, we made the decision to issue our earnings announcements a brief time before the originally scheduled release time, said the U.S. computer chips firm in a statement. Early on Thursday, the Financial Times had it cited Intel's chief financial officer as saying financial sensitive information was stolen by a hacker from its corporate website. Okay. Uh, so they're not giving me a lot of information about it though. But okay, this is something I could talk about more in depth on my tech podcast. If any of y'all into tech, that is. Um, what else is going on? What else I need to talk about? Da, 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 da. I need to find out who Biden has who all he has chosen. I know last time the last Democratic administration they had a lot of people from Wall Street working in the administration. It's never a great sign. That is never a great sign when you find a bunch of Wall Street people in the administration. But moving on, how long I've been on? Prayer breakfast leaders back Trump. Oh, something I just seen something and it reminded me of. There was a lot of people that were preachers, and some people even called them prophets. Well, basically they were saying a lot of religious people were saying Biden was destined to win. It was like a prophecy. I'm like, they really be using religion, right, to like really um, change people's minds. Like people really be believing people simply because that they're religious, as if that means that they're telling the truth. I find that interesting. Nothing against anybody that's religious, because I was raised as a Baptist myself. But I just find it interesting though, how the human mind works. But anyway, prayer breakfast leaders back Trump's election lies. Let me see what this is talking about. Yeah, I just found this. Leaders of the National Prayer Breakfast donated to President Trump and the Republican candidates who supported Trump, even after he began claiming that the election had been stolen. Campaign filings show a GOP mega donor with ties to both Trump and to the secretive Christian group behind the breakfast gave heavily in the Georgia Senate runoff. Another breakfast leader who played a role in the Maria Butina scandal donated directly to Trump's efforts to overturn the election. Republican breakfast co-chairs also supported Trump's efforts. At least one objected to Congress counting Arizona's electoral college votes. Anyway, I'm already tired of reading this. Uh, just know that a lot of religious people supported President Trump. So yeah. All right. See you. So I'm trying to look for stocks, by the way. I know I just stopped talking. I'm trying to find out who was a big winner today and who was a loser, basically. Um, and if you're not invested in the stock market, you should be. Um, let's see. So some gainers was Ford, Travelers, this is West Rock, BF Corp, Genuine Parts, Robert Half. Oh, okay. And it says some of the losers were Devon, an energy company, did bad today. Discover Financial Services, Occidental Petroleum Corp. Okay. Yeah, petroleum about to go through something right now. Marathon. A lot of the oil companies, right? Because everybody's like switching to what do you call it? Renewable energy. Basically, we're switching from oil, and I know a lot of people are. A lot of it's really more on the conservative side, but you know they kind of dislike what's happening. But eh, times change, things change, stuff happens. Uh, Union Pacific was they lost today. Let me see, Cortiva Inc. I'm not even sure who that is, but yeah, man. Boston Scientific Corp did good today, so that's awesome. Uh, so yeah, I think it's about that time for me to get up out of here. So I will see y'all next time on the outlet. Um, and I look forward to seeing what President Biden does. Hopefully he does what he. Hopefully he helps out everybody. And we'll see. We'll see. So till next time. Peace.